Hello and welcome to episode 6 of All 5 Rounds, the second try at this. I am your host, Ty O'Keefe, and I'll in a minute be joined by my co-host, Daren Loucks. Today, we're going to give you, as always, 25 minutes of nothing but MMA gold. We're going to talk about Daniel Cormier, who's mentioned now defending the light heavyweight title as well as fighting Brock Lesnar. We're going to dig into this Nate Diaz, Bruce Buffer beef. And we're going to touch on this Darren Till weight cut issue and his possible move to middleweight a lot sooner than people think. Before we get started, got to remind everybody this call is brought to you by GetDialogue.com. If you want to get started, just go to GetDialogue.com, click host a call, and it's a great way to start out a podcast and join people with other interests. Really user-friendly platform, and again, that's GetDialogue.com. So, Darren, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, hopefully we won't have to drop out again. We had some technical difficulties on our first run at this. The UFC is just continuing to provide us with so much, interesting news and crazy stuff to talk about. A lot of people probably saw or have heard about Daniel Cormier's recent appearance on Live with Kelly and Ryan Seacrest and his comments in the media about now defending the light heavyweight title, which I've been dead wrong about. I personally have said many times that I don't think he'll have time after fighting Lesnar or before fighting Lesnar because Lesnar can't fight till after January. DC's going to hang him up when he turns 40 in April of next year, I believe. Now, the problem is we know who Daniel Cormier's next heavyweight opponent is. But, Darren, do we have any idea who his next light heavyweight opponent would be?
Well, we do and we don't. Like, it's if you're looking at papers and you're looking at rankings and you're looking at the one rematch that's available right now, you got to look at Gus. He's the only one. I mean, he lost a split decision. He fought him so well. And really, there's nobody else in the division who can handle what Cormier's got to give, right? Except Gus.
Yeah.
Gus is the only one, right, active fighter right now in that light heavyweight division that you can sit there and say he can fight Daniel Cormier, and that's a fight for the title. Now, if we're going to talk inactive guys, obviously there's only one name, and he holds the trump card, right? He's got two wins over Daniel Cormier, and if he automatically comes back in the picture and says, I'm going to go to light heavyweight and I want to fight for the title, well, he's kind of got GSP rights in that where if he says he wants it, I think he gets it, and that's John Jones. So if John Jones comes back into the picture and is able to fight and chooses to fight at light heavyweight, that's a fight. But I mean, I don't know how many people want to see that because he's beat him twice. So I think right now it's Gustafsson. I don't know. Do you think there's anybody else in that picture?
Not legitimately. I worry that because of this problem, other than Gustafsson, that the UFC might run one of these guys up like Ozdemir a little prematurely. And that guy, to me, might be Anthony Smith, depending on what he does in his next fight. There's also, a lot of people who think that, Ozdemir might get another shot. Exactly. To me, it's like, how do you not give Gustafsson a rematch after he dropped that split decision to Cormier? I mean, it already should have happened as far as I'm concerned. And
it's long overdue.
Oh, God, yeah. It's one of the most overdue rematches in the history of the sport. And it's one of the most underrated rematches. It's been swept under the rug. I don't know if it's because Gustafsson lost and he lost to Jones as well or whatever. But, I mean, come on. Enough's enough. Luke Rockhold's talking about moving up. We know that Cormier's not going to fight him at 205. He's not fighting him anywhere. And
you know what?
What's
Is there a guy who's being more disrespected in the UFC than Gustafsson then?
Like, probably not.
He takes him to the brink, and then he gets he never gets a title rematch. He never gets to. He doesn't get anything for it.
Yeah, and the thing is too, and the UFC is a truly global organization. You can't deny that. So I don't think it's necessarily because he's not a North American cat and he's not working out in a North American gym. It's not that at all. I don't think it's. I don't know if he's just one of those guys who refuses to bend. He doesn't like to play. He does at times. Throw out stuff on Twitter. There's been some shade between him and John Jones and Cormier on Twitter, and I know there's some beef between them now. And I also know that Cormier has said many times that Gustafsson doesn't deserve it and that he's criticized his professionalism, things like that, because of the beef they've had on social media or other places. So Cormier doesn't want to give him this fight. That's the other thing. And after Cormier's done what he's done, if the UFC says, hey, your last 205 title defense is going to be against Gustafsson, and Cormier's like, the hell it is, you know, the UFC's not going to, what's the UFC going to do? Say, yeah, it is. They're not going to make Cormier fight this guy. Cormier will say, no, then fine, I won't defend the light heavyweight title at all. I'll fight Lesnar and walk off into the sunset.
But you know what? I don't think DC wants to do that. I think he's got a bit of a financial plan, which is why he's saying.
Yeah, but would Gustafsson really draw a big payday though? That's the problem. You know,
but nobody's bigger.
He should deserve. I mean, that's a huge payday fight in the mind of MMA purists, right? Who know that that's a big ass scrap. That's going to be a huge fan friendly night. It's going to be too much to deny people like us who just want to see the fight. But in the bigger scale to the masses, I don't know if it's a big enough draw because a lot of people just don't respect Gustafsson enough.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Well,
that's crazy. That's why I'm saying, just like you used the word respect, is there a guy in MMA who doesn't get the respect that he deserves more than Alexander Gustafsson?
Well, because other than probably Rory McDonald, who also gets slighted a lot because he's in Bellator now, but in the UFC, no, I think you're right. Gustafsson gets dogged more than anybody at that level. There's guys who are unranked, guys within, you know, outside of the top 10 or whatever coming up that get dogged quite a bit. But at this level, no, nobody other than Gustafsson. And it's a damn shame because it's an opportunity that he deserves. And it's an opportunity that we as fight fans deserve to see, you know, but you know, it should have been inevitable. I don't want to see
Cormier fight any of those other guys. I think we all know exactly what'll happen. I mean, Cormier will go through them like a hot knife through butter.
Yeah,
but
I was just going to say that.
He can't do that to Gustafsson. Yeah. Just like John Jones found out that he can't do the dispatch Gustafsson just like he did everybody else.
And maybe because Cormier knows he's fighting an absolute gorilla in Lesnar, that he doesn't want to take damage from Gustafsson and then recover from that damage and then have to jump right back in camp to fight this steroid monster.
Never even thought of that. Great point.
And you know, I have zero respect for Brock Lesnar. I had the misfortune of going to high school in South Dakota at a place called South Shore while he was at a place called Webster, South Dakota, which isn't very far. And he was a high school wrestler. He's a couple years older than me. He was a high school wrestler. He was dominant, unbelievably dominant in the papers all the time. And he went to the University of Minnesota. So basically what I'm saying is I followed him since he was a teenager. I've known every move he's made from going to Southwest State to then the University of Minnesota. He even tried out for the Minnesota Vikings. All right. Yep. Like this guy's been around the block and I've seen him. He had such a chance to do these things. And then when he cheated to me, I lost all respect for Lesnar. So to me, the fact that DC's even giving him a fight, it drives me nuts. Lesnar doesn't deserve the DC fight. And if anything, I think DC should give, I don't care what happened with Miocic in the first fight. DC's last fight should be a rematch with Miocic because as far as I'm concerned, Miocic is the most significant heavyweight still right now because a year from now, DC is going to be hanging out on the broadcast booth and Miocic is going to be back on top, dominating just like he did. And we all know Ngannou's got issues. We all know he's going to have to get through Blades and that they're fighting. He's fighting Blades again. And Blades is a force to be reckoned with. And Ngannou might not even get through there. He couldn't get past Derek Lewis. And you know, so it is what it is. But no, this Cormier at 205. As far as I'm concerned, if you're not going to fight Gustafsson, don't fight anybody at 205. Just leave the belt, walk away, and be done with it. Go fight your money fight. You know, I got a lot of respect for Cormier, but I don't like the way he's handling this. Absolutely, do not.
I hear you.
Yeah, and obviously,
I think you're right too, and you know, I think he's looking at money fights.
Yeah,
and I think that's why he wants to fight at light heavyweight. He wants to defend the title. I know he knows that will be regardless of how many pay-per-views it does, it'll be a big enough draw that it will be good money for him.
Yeah,
obviously not Brock Lesnar money, but a good enough paycheck. So I think that's why he wants to defend that belt right away. Save the heavyweight title for the biggest payday he can get with, and that's with Brock Lesnar.
Yeah. Well, moving on.
Yeah.
This Darren Till Woodley fight is obviously on the horizon, and it deserves the attention it's getting. Obviously, it's getting a little overshadowed by the whole lightweight, picture and McGregor Khabib fight that's happening a month afterwards. But when Darren Till fought Stephen Thompson in his hometown of Liverpool, mind you, he didn't make weight. He had trouble making weight. We all know Darren Till's a massive welterweight. We all know that his future probably does lie in the middleweight division simply because as you get older, it's harder to cut weight. Muscle gets more, tougher, on
Yep.
and on and on. But we've heard some rumblings, and the fact that the UFC booked Kamaru Usman as a official backup in case somebody couldn't make weight for this Woodley Till fight said a lot about what they think about Till's ability to make weight, as far as I'm concerned. And now we hear Till is struggling. He's not saying he won't make weight, but he just absolutely despises it. Most fighters do, I guess. But it makes you wonder, and I've even seen now people saying, oh, Woodley Usman, as if they're planning for Till to miss weight. If Till doesn't make weight, A, do you think he should never fight at welterweight again if he misses weight? And B, if he misses weight, do you think that the UFC should just push him through and make him fight Woodley anyways? Or do you think it would be more beneficial to the division to have them put Usman up against Woodley for an actual title fight and say, Till, you're done at 170 and move on?
Wow, good question. For the division's sake, I think the Usman fight makes more sense. For the entertainment value and the best fight possible, I say you let these guys fight at whatever weight they come in at. Obviously, it doesn't become a title fight, and that's like we're saying, like hurtful for the division.
Yeah.
But I mean, everybody wants to see that. I think at this point, everybody wants to see it. And I know Tyron, I've seen online, Tyron said he'll fight him at any weight class. So I think Tyron feels like that is the fight that people want to see and that he needs to do. Because let's be honest, even when Darren Till does move up, Usman will still be there. And he can get his shot when it's his turn for sure.
Yeah.
So let's see Darren Till and Tyron Woodley. Let's see what happens. And as far as the first A option there that you had, listen, he's huge for welterweight. And middleweight is definitely going to be his weight class that he's gonna have to hit home at, and he'll be huge at middleweight too, because I'm sure he'll be free to work out. I'm sure he'll be looking to put more muscle on his frame, and I know a lot of those guys walk around, around 205 and even up to 225. I mean, he's he'll do just fine at middleweight too. So that I think is his future home.
And you're definitely right, especially long term. And you got to think about it. On a side note, man, that middleweight division with Whitaker and a guy like Till moving into it, and now Rockhold's leaving it, and I think that middleweight division is starting to shape up to be a very interesting weight class. And Whitaker, the thought of Whitaker Till makes my mouth water, just because that would be a war. And Robert Whitaker is so talented. And Kelvin Gastelum now, he's left the welterweight division, and he's going to be coaching opposite Whitaker on the next season of Tough. And Gastelum is obviously a force, and we got Chris Weidman coming back. And, so I really like the way that division's shaping up. And, man, would Till ever be one hell of an addition to that division? I mean, wow. Talk about bringing new life into that. And it's not like the welterweight division is short on contenders if Till bails, right? I mean, they got everybody. The real question, as far as I'm concerned, is, okay, so let's say Till doesn't make weight. My problem is I don't think Usman's the guy who should have been brought in as the official backup. I mean, I don't think Colby Covington necessarily deserves to be fighting for the title yet either, but at least he was the interim title. He's got bigger wins than Usman does. And they just stripped Covington of the interim title after he brought it up to the White House, which who cares? But the thing is, if they're going to have a backup, I don't get why they picked Usman with so many other qualified welterweight cats who could step in there, and so many guys who've been just wanting to fight Woodley. And it's like, if you're going to do that, you got to have a reason behind it. And they're really, again, maybe that's a statement on what they think about Colby Covington, and they don't want him doing this promo stuff because, straight up, he's been a racist, and that's a fact. And so, UFC doesn't want to play that game, and you can't blame them. They're a global organization, and there's no time for this shit. It's poisoning the sport. I'm sick of it, and thank God there's so little of it in MMA. And so a guy like Covington gets put on blast for running his mouth when he does, but he should. I think Covington does have more of a right to the backup role than Usman does. So really, I mean, that's going to be the question. Who deserves that backup role? Because unfortunately, I'm starting to think that Till Woodley just ain't ever going to happen. Just period. It's just not going to happen. So,
Yeah, you
do
think
you, do
so?
you think do you think we'll see them fight Till
Yeah, you
Woodley?
know
Do you
what?
think that's going to go down for the? Okay, do you think they're going to fight for the title?
For the title, that's a good question. I don't think anyone's going to know until the day before when he actually, goes to do that final weight cut. Um, it sounds like from what I've heard on the internet and stuff, and I know we've talked about it. He's not happy. No, nobody is cutting weight, especially if you
Oh
cut a
yeah,
lot of weight. You're not happy. You probably hate it. Um, you know, so
yeah,
it's really hard to say, especially with a guy who's missed weight. I
yeah.
hope so. I hope it's for the title. I'm sure all MMA fans want to see it at 170 for the title. If it doesn't happen at 170, I'd be just as happy to see him and Tyron Woodley duke it out at 75 or 80,
Yeah.
and instead of Usman and Woodley.
Yeah. I think we need to have a title fight. Woodley hasn't been in the octagon for a while. He needs to defend that belt. And so I'm etching for whoever gets a title fight, I guess, even if it's not Till, just to move the division forward. Because I can't stand things being stagnant like that, especially over just one or two guys. Like we've seen that in the lightweight division until recently when McGregor was out for so long and then they stripped him. I'm just sick of it. Anyways, moving
Okay.
on. Moving on to I think the most interesting piece of news, which has been going on for a few days. It's not brand new, and that's this beef between Nate Diaz and UFC announcer Bruce Buffer. Uh, Buffer made some comments. He wasn't too happy about the way Diaz stormed out of the press conference when the Khabib Conor video started playing at the press conference where they announced the Poirier Diaz fight for UFC 230 in November. He stormed out. He said, you should be giving Dana White some more respect. Nate Diaz responded with a whole bunch of interesting things on Twitter, basically saying, "I'm not going to bow down. You need to be, getting off the UFC's nuts, basically, and don't tell me what to do. I won't bow down to anybody." So my question to you is: A, what the hell is Bruce Buffer doing in this mess in the first place? And B, is this the end of this, or is this going to keep going?
Well, you know what? I think the real question is, well, we know what Nate Diaz is smoking. What the hell is Bruce Buffer smoking? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
what are you saying, Bruce Buffer? Bruce, stick to announcing people who come into the octagon and fight for a living
Yeah,
instead of criticizing what they think or say they deserve.
yeah.
Listen, if Nate Diaz is upset over the promotion of his fight, he's probably got a bit of a reason to. I mean, they announce his fight, and then all of a sudden they throw Khabib Conor on.
And plus, it's Conor too, right? You got to throw the Conor McGregor fight up there when Diaz is right there, and Diaz been itching for a trilogy payday, right? I mean, of all
Exactly.
fights to do that with, I mean, yeah, real smart.
Yeah. So I see it from Nate's position. I'm always pro fighter when it comes to money. I think they deserve every bit of penny that they can get, and then some. There's lots of fighters who have been underpaid in the UFC. And
And
for me, if there's something wrong with what Nate's perception of the promotion or the money or whatever, I believe it. I'm on his side with that. So Bruce, I don't know what you're saying, man, but you need to pull back on that.
yeah, you pump the brakes, stay in your lane.
Yeah,
It's the thing is too is that since they made this Reebok deal, the fighters they don't get the money to promote on their shorts and on these like they used to, and they still do in the other like Bellator and things like that. You don't get to walk around and have 5 or 6 huge promoters plastered on your shorts where you're getting paid these promoters checks now. It's all Reebok. And it's less money. I don't care what the UFC says. We all know for a fact it's less money. The fighters have come out and said it. Ali Akinta purposely hasn't fought very much lately, specifically because it costs so much to train versus what he's bringing in profit wise, especially now that he's not allowed to get extra promo on the side. And when you're not a top tier guy, you're not getting Conor McGregor money. Shit like that matters. And
yeah,
Nate Diaz is getting Conor McGregor like money to an extent, but he hasn't
yeah,
fought in 2 years. All right. He has not fought in 2 years. And there's unfortunately a window. And as we all know, guys are fighting into the, late 30s, early 40s. And Nate Diaz is definitely one of those cats who could fight into his late 30s, early 40s, as far as I'm concerned, because he's
yeah.
taken care of himself. He's never taken severe damage. He does smart things, like when he exercises, he doesn't pound his knees on concrete. He bikes around a lot. He uses like a beach cruiser type bike to take it easy on his joints. And he's been doing that a very, very long time, so his cartilage in his knees isn't destroyed from pounding concrete, 5 hours a day or whatever, you know what I mean, running and stuff like that. So he's preserved his body. He's smart, got a lot of smart people around him, including his brother and everybody associated with the Gracie fight team. So, Nate Diaz is definitely entitled to snap back at Buffer like this. But man, it's one of the greatest things about MMA, and I really believe that it's one of the things that drew me to MMA as a journalist. Is you're not going to find beefs like this in hockey or baseball. This is an MMA only type beef, and I love it. You got two people from very, very different backgrounds, at least at this point in their life, they're indifferent. And here we are discussing a beef between these two guys, and one of these guys has never fought, and another one of these guys doesn't even want to fight. And he's a fighter. This is just, it's hilarious. This is why Nate Diaz is so great. And honestly, as far as I'm concerned, whatever keeps Nate Diaz talking is great. Whatever we need to do to keep him talking and relevant and fighting at least enough so that what he says matters, let's do that. Because Father Time's Icy Embrace is unforgiven. And it is right around the corner for both Diaz brothers. And it might have already grabbed Nick just because he's been so complacent. So
right.
Nate's following that same path, right? He's been inactive for 2 years, right? So this is great as far as I'm concerned. But
listen, when Nate speaks up and says something, it's good for the UFC, regardless of what he says. It's good for MMA. Fans love it. Fans are drawn to it. Okay. Yep. What'll be interesting actually after this whole thing is when Bruce has to announce Nate at his next fight. That'll be funny.
Yeah, and I know that they used a different announcer for the Fight Night Lincoln. I saw a different guy in there. I can't remember his name. I'm sorry, it's not on top of my head right now. People want to crucify me on Twitter later. But obviously for the pay-per-views, they're going to use Buffer. And he's going to be 2 feet in there. But I got a feeling by then this is going to be long past due, and I got a feeling Buffer will say it with a big smile on his face, and Diaz will get one on his face and go over and probably tap him on the shoulder. I think this beef is done. And it's funny, as soon as Diaz saw that Buffer was talking about him, he just let loose on him, and that Buffer was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
He's like, oh shit, what was I doing?
What was I thinking?
Yeah, it's like, and of all things, to say it to TMZ, like TMZ, I gotta admit, they're not unreliable in terms, and they do get some big MMA news, but to do it on that platform, I mean, it's just grimy. And so, it's like, I can just see him like in his hotel room going, oh shit, just backtracking, probably stayed up all night wondering how the hell he's going to get out of this. So, it is what it is. However, that conveniently brings us almost to our exact 25-minute mark, which is what All 5 Rounds is pretty much all about. In the future, we're going to be hitting you with a lot more episodes, hopefully moving around and getting to several different platforms at one time and doing some pre-promotions. We would love to get our listener base up, especially our live listeners. I know that's really key on this platform. So everybody kind of stay tuned. We're going to be doing some new promo stuff. I'm going to try some stuff, and forgive me for my ignorance for all the failures that are upcoming and on the horizon. But we're going to stick with it. And I personally believe that we have a huge future here at the show. And I just think at this point, it's worth mentioning that. Again, this call is brought to you by Dialogue. To host the call, just go to getdialogue.com, click host a call. Extremely user-friendly platform. I'd like to thank my co-host, Daren Loucks. You can catch him on Twitter at Daren Loucks. He's just getting started on social media, so give him a follow. You can catch me at Above the Fold Tie on Twitter. I have content on Fansided MMA, and I should have an article about the lightweight division coming out of the Fight Network within the next 24 to 48 hours, and a new article about Donald Cerrone coming out on Fansided MMA within the next 12 to 24 hours as well. So we will be back again soon this week, sooner than you probably want us to be. And thank you, Daren, for joining me as always.
Thank you.
This has been, definitely, man. It's been an absolute pleasure. And this has been the 6th episode, of All 5 Rounds. And stay tuned. Join us next time. Thank you very much.